Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk on this 21st day of September. And boy, we are racing through 2025. It's crazy. We are just a few short weeks away from October. In fact, I think we are 1 week away from the beginning of October, which in itself is a wee bit scary because this year has gone by so very, very quickly. So I have a couple of announcements to make at the start of the show. And the first one is this, because I nearly said announcements plural and then said that is, which is singular. So that was very poor grammar on my part. But the first announcement that I have to make is that the the Halloween song, let me get this in the right order. The Halloween Songwriting Challenge is now open and has begun. And so Rich Cresswell has created in fact, he's basically reopened the original workspace from last year. So if you are already still in last year's workspace for the Halloween Songwriting Challenge, that workspace is still available, and if you're in it, you are already there. So you can partake in this year's challenge if you would like to. If you're already in it, then you don't need to do anything. If you left the workspace after the challenge last year, all you got to do is just rejoin it. And if you rejoin it, then all the new details for this year's Halloween challenge are there. We are adding more details as we go over the course of the next few days. There is, again, messed up grammar. There are some different options for you this year and some different ways of going about the challenge this year. We've decided to make it quite a bit more flexible this year. So if you include some of the scales for that we have set for you for this year's challenge, you will get some bonus points. If you decide not to and you just want to do your own thing, that's absolutely fine. Everybody has an equal chance of winning the grand prize, which is a 1-year annual subscription to Studio One Pro Plus, which of course at the end of that year gives you a free perpetual license for Studio One Pro. So you're in there for a year. At the end of it, you get a free perpetual license. So it's like 2 prizes for the price of 1, except it doesn't cost you anything, so there's no price. But if you get what I mean. So we're very excited about this year's particular challenge. It's going to be a belter, or as we say here in Scotland, it's going to be a banger. So we are really looking forward to the results that you guys are going to submit. And the cool thing is, this year you can give each other feedback. So if you want to submit your works in progress, you certainly can do, and you can comment on each other's works in progress. And then there is going to be in the workspace a submissions folder, which is where you put your final entry. So the closing date for this contest is going to be 0100 UK time. That is going to be 7 p.m. Central Time on October 26th. All right, so mark that in your calendars. October 26th, 7 p.m. Central, that is the closing that is when the door will be closed to entries for this year's challenge. And then on the 29th, we will be announcing the winner. So mark those 2 dates in your calendar. There will be a show on the 29th. There'll be a show on the 26th as well. So mark those dates in your calendars so that you've got those set aside. And in between now and then, on October the 9th, it is my birthday. It is not just any ordinary birthday. It will be my 50th birthday. So there will be a special birthday show. on the Wednesday before, because my birthday is on the Thursday, which is the 9th. So the Wednesday before, so it'll be Wednesday night my time. So it'll be the usual Songwriting Simplified show, except it's going to be a birthday party instead. So if you want to make a gift for my birthday, that would be great. I would love that. But there's no obligation for anybody to do anything. But if you'd like to make a gift, in the description below this live stream, in the description box thing, you will find that there is a link to my PayPal, and you can basically copy paste that into a browser, and then you can basically send some money to my PayPal. So if you would like to do that, that would be awesome. But if you don't want to do that, that's okay too. If you just want to say happy birthday and be here on the birthday party live stream, that's just fine as well. Bobby Booth says I'm getting old. Yes, I am. In so many ways, I'm getting old. Not just kind of in terms of age, but my body is definitely getting... In fact, I think my body already has a head start on me, to be honest. I have the knees of an 80-year-old, which is not necessarily entertaining, and various other parts of my body don't really work as they should. But hey, it is what it is. It's life. It's you know, I just have to work around those issues, and I have to make the best of what I have, and make sure that I always take my medication and all of that fun stuff. So, with reference to the songwriting challenge, Rich Cresswell says, if you have already left the workspace, then let Rich know and he will send you a new invite directly. Bobby says, wait until you reach 67 like me. Dude, you are the youngest 67-year-old I know, so stop that shit right now. So, yes, so if you already left the workspace, let Rich know, and he will get you taken care of so that you get back into the workspace. And I think going forward, this is probably how we are going to work it going forward in the future. We'll just keep this workspace going. So if you want to stay involved in future Halloween songwriting challenges, stay in the workspace, don't leave it. And we will basically clean it up every time. I think that's probably what we will do, but we will confirm that when we get to the end of this challenge. So once this challenge is all done and dusted, we will confirm what we're going to do with the workspace, whether we're going to get rid of it and start a new one, or whether we're just going to keep this one going, and just allow you all to kind of just hang out, basically, and wait until the next challenge comes along. We will discuss, Rich and I will discuss, and we will let you know what we are going to do about that. All right. Now that I've got all of those announcements out the way, Billy Morgan was the first in the door, followed by, not that far behind actually, is Tony Stringer, which is pretty cool. And then we got Just Bob, who is here, and I believe he is actually here for the show and not just dropping by to say hello before he is in rehearsal or working or something like that. So Bob, I'm very glad you're here, mate. And we've got the key man, that is my good friend Ron, is here. And he's going, what? Have I got that note right? I did get the note right. What? Yep. And Caldredusiak is here as well. And the aforementioned Rich Cresswell is here. And who else is here? I'm looking down through the chat. And I'm trying to see who else is. Josh Samos is here. Hello, Josh. Good to see you. Welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here. Paul Morgan is also here. Don Oliver is here. Dave from New York is also here. And he says the whole tone scale messes with my fingers. Yeah, it is a little awkward to get your fingers around on the piano keyboard, to be fair. But also, to be fair, it's also not that easy to play on a guitar either. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it's not impossible. Dwayne is here, and Chris Mrackner is here as well. Great to see you, my dear friend. I'm glad you are here. And Bob has confirmed he's here for the whole show, which is freaking awesome. This is great. Just Bob. He's still in the Foley challenge. Wow, that challenge. Gosh, that was like 2021. I think I decided to do that in the midst of the pandemic, and then it never really kind of went anywhere. Unfortunately, it had lots of potential to be something really, really cool, and then never really happened, unfortunately. I think mostly because everybody, whilst we were in lockdowns and various forms of lockdown, were kind of busier than we all thought we would be. So it ended up not really happening. But, by the way, just FYI, that Foley challenge never actually closed. So if you want to go check out what that's all about, let me know. And maybe we might reopen that. I don't know. Depends if you guys actually want to do something with it. If you guys want to do something with the Foley challenge, which if you don't know what that is, basically what that was a songwriting challenge to basically make a piece of music using sounds that you create from household items. So it could be slamming shut your freezer door to make a kick drum. And then using, I don't know, the tabletop as a snare drum, a wine bottle as a cymbal or a hi-hat or something like that, and then, microwave sounds, toaster sounds, front door, doorbell, a whole bunch, whatever sounds you have around the house to basically create a little library of sounds, and then you put those up into something like Impact, and then you create a piece of music using all of those sounds. It doesn't have to be melodic. It can be a soundscape. It can be percussive. You can play with rhythm using those different sounds. So yes, that challenge is still kind of there. It doesn't have a closing date. It never really did have a closing date, but nobody really actually submitted anything apart from Rich. So it just kind of, I don't know, kind of went to sleep, I guess. So if you guys are still interested in that, let me know, and we may resurrect it. Not that there will be any prizes at all for that particular challenge, but it's just so that you can say, hey, I actually completed a piece of music, not using real instruments, just using stuff that's in my house. Yeah, it was a complete rework of Axel F that Rich did, using shit that's in his house, sounds that's in his house, or in his old house, I should say. So that was generally the idea behind that challenge. So anyway, that is that to do with all things challenge orientated, and I've talked about my birthday, my 50th birthday coming up on October 9th, so if you want to hit up my PayPal, you most certainly can, either now or at any point in between now and October 9th, the end of October 9th. It's kind of up to you guys what you would like to do with regard to that. But yes, I will be having a... normally we'd do Songwriting Simplified on that night, but we'll just turn it into a birthday party. And we'll just have some fun, basically. We can still talk songwriting, we can still talk, the Halloween challenge, and find out how you guys are getting on with it. If you're having any problems, we can still talk about all that stuff as well. But, we'll also kind of make it a bit more of a party as well. I may well wear some interesting clothing. If you guys would like me to wear something weird, I will wear something weird. That could be a dangerous thing to say publicly. So maybe I should retract that statement. All right, so let's get to the show. Rich says, never going anywhere. Yes, I will keep the Foley challenge open for those that want to be involved in it and put stuff up in there. If you want to put stuff up in there, Rich and I will actually take a listen, and we'll see what creative activities you guys have been getting up to with that, if you would like to do that. Anyway, all right, so I'm going to go back because there have been some not necessarily questions, but more kind of commentary on things that you guys have been up to over the course of the last few days, and I don't want to miss kind of what's been talked about here. So Kyle says, Ron and I spent 3 hours last night learning the show page. Awesome. I'm glad you did that. The show page, for those of you that don't know what the show page is basically, it's a way in which you can use Studio One to do a live show. So this means you can have Ampire as your guitar or bass amp, and you can have Presence, and you can have Mai Tai, you can have Mojito, you can have all of the stuff that's available to you in Studio One and use those in a live setting. And the cool thing is, there are things that are called patches. So if, for example, you have an instance of Impact, and in one song you've got an electric piano, in the next song you've got just a regular Steinway grand piano, and in the next one you've got a Hammond B3 sound, you can set the patches in advance, and then when you move to the next song, Presence will automatically switch to that particular sound. It's really, really handy if you're moving from one song to the other. You don't want to have to be pressing buttons trying to find the next sound for the next song. It does that automatically. The same for guitars. So if you've got particular amp presets in Ampire, for one song going into the next song, you've got a completely different setup, maybe even a different cabinet, different head, and maybe different pedal setup for a different song. You can have all of those. You can save those as a patch, and then it will move from one to the next for the next song. The only thing it doesn't currently do is it doesn't really switch in the middle of a song unless you are using the arranger track. If you are using the arranger track for a song in the show page, and you have the chorus with a particular guitar setup, and then the verse has a different guitar setup, you can use the patches there. So you can have a verse patch and a chorus patch, and then it should switch between those different patches. So it's really, really handy, really useful. You can use the fat channel for EQ and compression for your vocals. You can use the room reverb. You can use whatever you want from the effects and all of that. So, yeah, patches can change per arranger section. Yes, they can. Personally, I have not used the show page since we were testing it for Studio One 5.0. The reason being is because I've not played a gig since 2020 because I retired from performing at that point. So I had been really, really, really excited about having the show page and how I could use the show page with my big band. And then the pandemic happened, and then I couldn't really afford to keep my big band kind of on hold whilst all the venues were shut down. So I ended up having to fold the band. So the band disbanded, and I was left with just me. And I decided, after pretty much 40 years of performing, almost, I would say on average between 3 and 5 nights a week, for pretty much 40 years, I decided that maybe this was a real opportune moment for me to actually just call it quits and retire from performing, which is what I did. I played the very, 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 very rare gig nowadays. I still work with my parents when they play gigs. I am their bass player for their little acoustic outfit, their little acoustic band. But I don't actually do any performing other than that anymore. Unless there's like a particular occasion or a particular group of people that I like working with. Other than that, no, I don't play gigs anymore. I do my day job at Presonus, and I do session work, and I write arrangements, and I do the scores for student films on behalf of some of the universities here in Edinburgh and across Scotland. So I work with film students a lot, doing their film scores, and I write arrangements for big bands, and I write arrangements for recording sessions as well, and I play on a lot of recording sessions, either remotely here from my home, or I go to another studio, whatever's required. But that's pretty much what I do as a musician these days. I don't go out and play gigs anymore. And I thought I would really, really miss it. And actually, you know what? I really don't. Surprisingly. Surprised myself. I thought I would really miss it, but I actually really don't. So I pretty much have not used the show page since 2020, when we first launched it with Studio One 5. It has developed, and it has grown, and it has changed, and there's new features added to it now. There's the chord track. There's the arranger track now available in the show page. And I can tell you one thing is for sure, we are not done with the show page. So there's lots of things coming for the show page, which will make it freaking amazing. I mean, it's already pretty cool, but it's going to be even better. So that is that with the show page. So I'm glad, Kyle and Ron, I'm glad you guys have been having some fun with it and taking the time to learn it. I think it's a really good thing to dive into, for sure. Let's see. Bobby Booth says, is there a way to get 4 effects channels to come up as effects channels with plugins on them? Yeah, you just create the effects channels with the plugins on them. Or you can you can create like effects chains and save those if you want. But when you are creating an effects channel, you can only create one at a time. So if you want 4 effects channels, you've got to create 4 effects channels. Or, and this is a big or, the other option is to just basically drag your plugin to the send section. So if you've got a particular effects chain that you want on an effects channel, or you want on more than one effects channel, but let's say you want a reverb and a delay on a bunch of sends, and you know that's kind of how you want it. You want, like, you know, sends for, I don't know, 10 vocal channels or something, and you want them to go through a particular reverb and delay. Well, you can select those, and then you can just drag the reverb to those, and it will populate all of their sends, and then you can do the same with the delay, and it will populate all of their sends, and that should create you a reverb and a delay channel. So that would be 2 effects channels with their plugins. And then, you know, if you want other reverb, different delay, for example, then you just drag the reverb and delays to your sends. Or you can drag a particular preset to your send section. But that's really the only way you can do that. The other option is to create a template that has those effects channels created already with those plugins on them already. So if you know you are going to use a plate reverb and a whole reverb, and you're going to use, you're also going to have, let's say, a quarter note ping pong delay and a slapback delay, and those are going to be your 4 main effects channels that you know that you are going to use in your mix. Create a template with those already created. So you basically create a new song, you create those effects channels with those plugins, with the presets already set up, how you want them, and then you save that as a template. And then when you start a new mix, you create a new song using that template. Those 4 effects channels will be there with their plugins instantiated on them. So there are, as usual, several different ways in Studio One to skin the metaphorical cat. And those are those for that question. So you can either just drag the effects in and do it that way and do that on every song, or you can create a template that has those effects channels with those plugins already saved in the template. And then when you open the template, they'll all be there. Low Ends is here and he's waving a pink hand. So hello to you, my friend. Glad you are here. So Bobby Beard, that was actually a very good question. So I hope that the answer helps you, satisfies your question. It's a good one, for sure. Let's see, what else is there? Cleon is here, and he says night-night, which suggests that he's here, but he's going to bed, or something like that. I'm not sure, Cleon, but I'm glad to see you are here. Welcome to the show. And Just Bob is having maybe a slight issue with getting back into the workspace. I think that's what's going on there, and he's working that out with Rich Cresswell. So if anybody else has a Studio One question, get them into the chat. We are a little low on attendance tonight. We only have 18 people. We usually have around about 25 or 35 people here. So somewhere in that range that's kind of where we tend to have our attendance on a Sunday Night Live. So we are a little short-handed. But I'm hoping that more people are going to come in as we go through. We are approaching the halfway point in the show. Yeah, so Rich is working with Just Bob on getting his access back to the workspace. Yeah, Billy Morgan says, give Jonny the thumb. Yeah. You can only do that if you're hitching a lift. Otherwise, yes, please do hit the like button if you haven't done already. If you like what we're talking about here tonight and you like what I do here on my channel, make sure you are subscribed. Because actually, that's going to be critically important, especially as we go forward through the challenges that we are doing. Because if you're not subscribed, you may well miss the shows, and you may well miss announcements that I put out about the challenges, because we have a Halloween challenge, then later in the year, in December, we have a Christmas challenge as well, which I'm not going to give any more information about that out just yet, because Rich and I have discussions to have at that point for that. And then that will be the end of the year. However, I know this is kind of a little bit of forward planning, but once we got past my birthday and we are done with the Halloween challenge, we'll go back to the normal kind of scheduling for Songwriting Simplified on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central, and this show, Sunday Night Live, same time, same place, but on a Sunday. And we will continue that through into December, when we will have the Christmas Songwriting Challenge. But we will also have a Christmas special show, which will be on the nearest Wednesday or Sunday. Excuse me. Which will, as I said, will be the nearest Wednesday or Sunday to Christmas itself. And then we will have my Hogmanay show, which, if you don't know what Hogmanay is, if it's a word you've never heard of before, it's a Scots word that basically means end of year. So just like the rest of the world celebrates New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, in Scotland we celebrate Hogmanay, which is essentially the same thing. It's just the Scots word for that. So we'll be celebrating Hogmanay on New Year's Eve. And that will be at 1 a.m. UK time. So that's going to be 7 p.m. Central on New Year's Eve. And so that I'm really looking forward to. The Christmas show, I'm really looking forward to as well. It's going to be great fun. And hopefully my birthday show will also be a lot of fun as well. I'm really looking forward to that. And so that's going to be my birthday, as I said, is going to be on the 8th of October, which is the Wednesday, when we would normally do Songwriting Simplified. We'll just convert that into a birthday party, basically. And then it'll be my birthday on the Thursday. And then on Sunday, we'll have Sunday Night Live as normal. And on Saturday, I am actually having a proper actual birthday party, which I'm looking forward to quite a bit. I'm looking forward to having a lot of family and friends around here at our house, and depending upon weather, we might actually go and spill out into the garden as well and make it into a garden party. We'll have to see. All right, so let's see. Do we have any more questions? I'm having a wee look. Josh has a question. How do I keep other MIDI tracks from appearing in the edit window when I only want to edit one track? That's a good question, and I will show you exactly how to do that. So let me see. Can I show you with this song? No, I can't, because that is all audio channels. So let me find a song. Just give me a second to find a song that has a decent number of MIDI events. And I'll show you exactly how you can do this. So let me close the mixer in this one. Oh, there's plenty of MIDI going on here. So let me go over to the screen and put me in the top corner there. All right, so this is my Halloween challenge song from a couple of years ago, and this is called Souffrere, which is basically it's all about the eruption of the volcano on Montserrat called Souffrere. And it was a particularly large eruption. And so that's what this is kind of all about. And I'm going to play you about 15 seconds or so of this, just so you get an idea of what we are dealing with. And then I'm going to show you the MIDI tracks, and I'm going to show you how you can show and hide all of your events in the note editor. All right, kind of enough of that, really. Okay, so let's open this note event here, and you will see that when you open it, you won't necessarily always see this little list here. This is the track list, and you'll find that there is a similar one here for the arranger view. And then there's this in the note editor as well. At the moment, it is only showing this particular track. But if I was to just swipe downwards, now you can see all the events, and they've all got a different color, as you can see here. So these different colors correspond to the little note bars here as well. So if I go into the score editor as well, And if I do the same, hang on, there we go. You'll now see that the score view has also filled up with all of those events. Now, I only want to see this one. And as you can see, there's just like lots of long notes. There's not a whole lot that goes on with this particular part. So it's not that interesting. But if I only want to see one event, or one track, we should say, then just turn all of these off here. Just swipe down and they'll all turn off. And then you can close that to hide it so you don't need to see it. But generally speaking, this is the view that you get to see by default. But if you are seeing lots of other different colored notes and all sorts of other information in here that's not relevant to your particular selected track, then just click on this little hamburger icon that says track list, and then just swipe up to turn these off, or swipe down, whichever you want to do. Kind of up to you which way you want to do it. Is there a way to send that song to the show page? Yes, send to show, basically. You go song and add to show. So if you've already got a show that already exists, then you just select one of your shows. I've got a few, like I said, that I was using for testing way back in 2020. So I have a few shows. Of course, if you want to, you can create a brand new show and you just select it. Here it says new show, Souffre V7 edition, or whatever. Whichever show you want to choose. So I could choose this one, this one, this one, or this one, or even this one. Whichever one I want to add it to. There isn't a key command that does it necessarily. But you just go song, send to show. And the same with sending to Notion. You just click on send to Notion. So if you have Notion 6 or Notion Mobile on your computer, or you have Notion Mobile on an iPad, an iPhone, an Android device, or a Linux computer, for example, and they are all on the same local network, then when you do send to Notion, those options should appear as available to you. See, Notion Mobile, Jonny's iMac. So my Mac is on the network. And currently it is the only one that it is seeing because my phone is not being detected by the network at the moment because the screen is locked. Same with my iPad. And I, of course, don't have Notion Mobile or Notion 6 open currently on my PC. But if I did, those would appear as options as well. And then you do send note data of entire song or send note data of selected tracks, and then merge into open document. So if you already have an open document, then everything that you send here will get merged into that Notion document. You can also send audio files to Notion from the file browser. So if you actually want to send audio, you can do that. But huge caveat. When you see this, don't get excited into thinking that Notion is going to convert your audio into notation. It won't, because it's not designed to do that. It does not do transcription. What this means is if you need to send an audio reference file to a Notion score, you can do that. Or if you need to have an audio track to play along with your Notion score, you can do that, but it will only play the audio track. It won't transcribe it to notation. So that's an important thing that you need to learn about this. Notion doesn't do transcription. It doesn't convert audio into notation. Okay, so don't expect it to do that because it won't. Okay, so I think I've just hit Ron's question at the same time as Josh's question, so that's twofer. What does Notion do? Notion is a notation software that we make, which I can show you, but you'll need to give me a moment to do that. So Let me close that. Let me put that back that way, because this is how this song normally opens. And I will go back to the lounge for a second. And I'm actually going to open Notion Mobile for this. And I'm going to show you just a little bit about what it is like. And if I go back to the screen now, you can now see Notion Mobile. Notion Mobile is a notation app. And it has basically a whole bunch of sounds that were created by the London Symphony Orchestra, recorded at Abbey Road Studio, the world famous Abbey Road Studio. And by the way, I've been to Abbey Road Studio. I have worked there way back, maybe it's got to be 24 years ago, 2001. I worked at Abbey Road very briefly. I was not there as a mixing engineer or anything like that, or a recording engineer. I was there as a session player. And I was working on something for the BBC way back in 2001. Man, that was a long time ago. And so I was there as a drummer, actually, on something for the BBC way back then. Which was basically, we were recording the music for a TV show, and it was all done at Abbey Road Studios. So I've been there a few times over the years, but the last time I was there, like I said, was 2001. I was there briefly in 2003, but I was only there for like a couple of days. But for the most part, I was the whole BBC project, I think I was there for a week of recordings, because we basically did the entire show. So the whole series for this TV show, we recorded it in a week. So that was a lot of fun, and it's a great place to go and record, and the people there are lovely. But the London Symphony Orchestra, you will have heard of them because they performed the scores for E.T., Star Wars, Indiana Jones, basically all of the big Steven Spielberg film productions. They were recorded by the London Symphony Orchestra at Abbey Road Studios. And of course, all those scores were done by John Williams. The Lord of the Rings music, that was also recorded at Abbey Road Studios as well. Most of the major film scores that are done are recorded by the London Symphony Orchestra at Abbey Road. Depends on the size of the budget, but for the most part, big budget blockbuster films, that's what happens. It's the London Symphony Orchestra because they are the best classical orchestra in the world. No question about it, no doubt about it. And Abbey Road is the best place to capture a full orchestra. So way back a few years ago, we basically were able to hire the London Symphony Orchestra and Abbey Road Studios to record all of the orchestral samples for Notion 6. For Notion, because it's been in a few different versions of Notion. And of course, we now have the exact same orchestral library in Notion Mobile as well. Plus, we have the bass playing of Victor Wooten, and his brother Roy played all the drums. Neil Zaza played the guitars. So pretty much the best session musicians in the world, plus the best orchestra in the world, recorded at the best studio in the world. And that's the sound library for Notion and for Notion Mobile. And it has a lot of articulations. What you get for Notion Mobile, fewer articulations, fewer samples, but they are still the same high quality samples. There are just fewer of them so that they can fit onto a mobile device, like for example, an Android phone or an iPad, which has less space than a PC or a Mac, although these days even that's changing. So that's what Notion is, and that's what Notion does. It's notation software. For those of you that kind of have some familiarity with notation, what Notion does not do is it does not do engraving. Engraving and composing are two different sides of the same coin, effectively. So the composing side is one side of the coin, engraving is the other, and that's where you prepare your score for publication. And that's where you can go to town on spacing, on layout, on the notation font, and all of that kind of stuff. Notion isn't designed to do that. However, you can print your score, and you can distribute parts to your musicians who will be able to read it with no problem and be able to perform it for you. I've actually used Notion for big band arrangements, orchestral arrangements. Pretty much all of my arranging work is done either in Notion 6 or in Notion Mobile. And in fact, increasingly, my work's done in Notion Mobile rather than Notion 6. Notion 6 is great. I love Notion 6, but there are things that Notion Mobile does that Notion 6 doesn't do, and vice versa. There are things that Notion Mobile does that Notion 6 doesn't do. So I actually use them in tandem, but for the most part, most of my work is done here. And the good news is I can transmit easily between the two applications with one mouse click, pretty much. So that's Notion in a nutshell. Great questions, folks. Great questions. Let me see. Ron says, so show page doesn't bring in arranger, chord marker, and other tracks, correct? Yes, it should do. If your song that you have already created in Studio One has the arranger track and the chord track, then, and stuff like that, and lyrics, those should go over into the song page. So if you send your song to the show page, and if it has the chord track, the arranger track, and lyrics, then all of those will go over with it. That's by design. Carl says, just got to wait for food delivery, then I'm a go for... Oh, right, for after show with Rich Cresswell over at Ellendar. Everyone calls it Lander, but I've actually spoken to somebody at the company just relatively recently because we had somebody that was having an issue with the Ellendar plugins. And so I actually had to talk to somebody at Ellendar. And I said, so everyone calls it Lander, is that correct? And they go, actually, no. We actually prefer people call it Ellendar because that's what it actually is. The company is actually called L&R, as in left and right. But for some reason, everybody calls it Lander. They don't mind. They're actually really good. They don't actually mind the fact that people call it Lander, but because that's just the acronym that is stuck, and they don't mind. But yeah, the company is actually called L&R. And actually, if I'm really honest, I've called it Lander for years. And actually, I actually like it. I think it's a good little acronym. But like I said, they don't mind. But yeah, the company name is actually called Ellendar. But they don't care. They don't care what you call it, just as long as you don't call it something sweary or rude. Let's see, what else do we have? We've got about 9 minutes left of the show. Why does Notion have samples from orchestra? Because it's a notation software, Josh. That's why it has samples from an orchestra, because you can write for a full orchestra. Or you can write for a string quartet, or a sextet, or a chamber group that has mixed strings and woodwinds, for example. Or you can write for a percussion ensemble. Or you can write for a big band. There's jazz sounds there as well. So there's jazz saxophones, jazz trumpets, jazz trombones. You can basically have a big band inside a Notion, because there's something called the expansion sound library, and that's where all the jazz sounds are. So you've got your orchestra and your kind of rock rhythm section as standard. And those are called the bundled sounds. And those are standard. Those come for free with either Notion 6 or Notion Mobile. But the expansion sounds, they have a whole bunch of other things. There's like sound effects, and there's some extra percussion sounds. There's some extra strings articulation. There's extra woodwinds articulations. And there's all of the jazz brass and woodwinds, so you can have a big band. And that's, as I said, I do all of my big band arrangements using it. So Notion has orchestral samples because you can write for full orchestra in it. So that would be why. Carl says, yes, it can play the sounds. Yes, that's why. I mean, fundamentally, that's the reason why it has samples for an orchestra, because when you're writing for an orchestra, you need to be able to hear what you're writing. So that's why you have orchestral samples. So if you're writing for an orchestra, then it plays the sounds. Josh says, I don't understand why the orchestral samples are in Notion. If it's a notation software, does it play sounds? Yes, it does, because you need it to play the sounds. Let me go back to Notion, and I will explain a little bit more. So let me go back there. And we'll go back to screen. Now, this is just something really, really short for basically a small jazz group. So we have trumpet, trombone, alto sax, tenor sax, baritone sax, electric piano, and electric bass. And that's all we have for this. And it's not even a complete piece. It's just a few bars. But if I play this, you'll hear the sound. Okay, and that's the end of that. That's all it is. At the moment, this was the start of something for teaching harmony writing. And so this is what I have here. And this is how you would write for a jazz group. So this is not a big band. This is, well, how many musicians would we have? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's not even drums here, but if there was drums here, you'd have 8 musicians. So this would be what you'd call an octet. And so when I'm writing notation into here, I need to be able to hear. I mean, for me personally, I don't need samples. I don't need anything else, because I know what it sounds like up here in my head. But not everybody has that. Not everybody can hear how their music should sound in their heads. So they need some aural feedback. So when they actually write a phrase, they need to go, okay, let me just check, see how this sounds. Right? And then I can go, okay, this is all good. Maybe I need to change this note. Maybe I need to change that note. Maybe I need to revoice this chord. Maybe I don't like it. Or maybe I'm asking this baritone player to play higher than is comfortable for him. That's fine. I can just reorientate some of these notes to make it easier for my particular baritone player to play. In my case, for my big band, my baritone player would have no trouble reaching that note at all. And so this is how I work when I'm writing an arrangement for somebody. And like I said, I need to be able to play it back. Additionally, one of the other good reasons here is, let's say I've completed my arrangement, right? I'm happy with it, but I need to send the score back to the producer, and I need to have something for him to hear, or her to hear. So in this case, I can go here and I can go export score, and I've got a couple of options here. I can store the file, and that's fine. But I can store it as a MIDI file, or I can store it as a WAV file or an MP3. So in this particular case, maybe what I want to do is I want to do this twice. I want to export it as a PDF file so that the producer has the score as a PDF. And then I also want to do it again and export as an MP3. And then I would put the two things into an email, send it to the producer, and the producer has the score and has the MP3 audio of the mock-up in Notion. And then they can decide whether they want me to make some alterations to the arrangement or whatever they need me to do, or whether they're happy with it. And then they will bring in their session players to actually play my arrangement for the recording session. So that's how that works. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why you need sounds in a notation software. So I hope that that was a helpful answer for you. Let's see. I imagine you can export the MIDI data and use good VSTs in Studio One. Yeah, you can send to Studio One, and when you send to Studio One from Notion, what will happen is it will create a bunch of instrument tracks in Studio One that are unassigned, right? So they're not assigned any instruments at all, but the note data is there, and then you can just basically drag and drop whatever instruments you need or want on those particular tracks. And so you can have, let's say you would much rather have some other VST3 orchestral library playing those sounds instead of Notion. You can certainly do that, and that would be perfectly fine. You just need to assign the sounds in Studio One. And it is as straightforward as that. And Just Bob has his issue with the workspace resolved, which is good news. That's great. So, Josh, I hope that that answered your question about Notion. Some good questions there. I appreciate that. All right, so we are pretty much at the end of the show. So, if Rich is going to be doing a lander session, then he can post the link in here, and you guys can go and continue the conversation over there if you would like to. And Josh says, yes, good. I'm glad, Josh. I'm glad that helped. If you would like if you still got questions about Notion and you'd like to know more, then please do let me know, and I can basically get you some more details on that. Bearing in mind, Notion is more of a Songwriting Simplified show kind of question. This Sunday Night Live is much more focused on Studio One and recording, mixing, and mastering in general. But if you want to learn a little bit more about notation, how to actually write notation and that kind of stuff, and how to use Notion, let me know, and bring those questions on a Wednesday. If you're around on a Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central, then by all means ask your Notion questions there, and I'd be happy to help you, and I'd certainly be happy to steer you in the direction of some of the resources that there are available for learning Notion and Notion Mobile as well. There's a couple of excellent playlists on the Presonus YouTube channel that you can check out, and there's the Notion page on the Presonus website. So if you go to presonus.com, and in the little menu ribbon at the top, you click on software, and a little drop down thing appears, and you'll see Notion Mobile and Notion 6 there. Click on either of those pages, and there's a whole bunch of information there about both those pieces of software, and you can check those out at your leisure. And if you would like to purchase Notion 6, you can do that there as well. Notion Mobile is a free app, by the way, folks. It doesn't cost you a penny. It really doesn't. The only thing that does cost you is the feature bundle, which is the in-app purchase in Notion Mobile. And what that does is that gives you those expansion sounds that I was talking about, plus some extra features like layout handles, the handwriting tools. So if you've got an iPhone or an iPad and you've got one of those Apple Pencils, I've got one of those, and you want to write your score with your pencil, with your own handwriting, and have that converted to nice printed notation, then the handwriting tool is what you will need, and that is in the feature bundle, and you'll need to purchase the feature bundle from inside the application on each of the platforms that you use it on. So if you're on iOS and Mac and PC like I am, I have to purchase it on each of those platforms because they each have their own app stores. So bear that in mind. Bear that in mind. All right, we will end the show there. Thank you very much, everybody. Rich will have the link very shortly to the lender session if you want to get involved over there, if he's going to run one. I don't know whether he is, but if he is, then you will you'll be able to get that there. All right, in the meantime, folks, there's the lender session. Go click on that if you want to carry on with the conversation with Rich over there. And if you've got questions about the Halloween Challenge workspace, that's probably the place to get those resolved as well. Otherwise, I'll see you on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified, back here at 6 p.m. Central Time. And you can work out your other time zones as appropriate. But for me, it's going to be midnight, which is what it is here when I start the show. It is now 1 a.m. I need to go back to my bed. All right, guys, take care. See you very soon. And I need to be on the right song for my outro. Hopelessly unprepared. All right. Good night, folks. Cheers.
Thank you.